Anyways, this is going to be a very interesting video because I know college is about to happen again for a lot of you guys. I'm going to share a few tips and tricks to help you if you're first timer. Hello, welcome to my channel. If you're a returning student, also welcome. But I'm going to tell you a few tips and a few tricks. How can normal and disabled students get to school and make the most out of their education? First and foremost, it starts the summer before you start or any break before you start a semester. It starts the break before. Like, if you're making the schedule, you want to go in and go through your class schedule first. Here's the why. That way you can create a spreadsheet what time you need to be in school for and what time your last class ends. I used to do this a whole lot through every semester of school, and that was a lifesaver. Went on and made spreadsheets of everything from the earliest class to the late class, and made sure I had time for breaks like eating and practicing in a way, and made sure I had time to squeeze for a lesson because music majors went through lessons. So that's the first go. And the reason why I would do this is especially the few days before school starts. I go to set this thing, the phone here, and set it on, I can tell you what settings I went to get the automatic do not disturb mode. So I go down to my settings, your settings look similar, set down focus. Then you can do like, okay, you can do the plus sign, and you can put what you want to focus on, and then you can set the time that you get to school, or you can sometimes set the group of times that you do. For my instances, when I did focus mode, do not disturb, I set for 8 o'clock in the morning to the time I leave campus. Because 8 o'clock, I had a few classes that were at 8 o'clock in the morning till the latest part being sometimes 3 and 4 in the afternoon. Or sometimes I took the bus going home, so that's why I put it that direction. That way it gives the teachers and the practicing sessions the undivided attention it needed. So, secondly, and this applies to everyone, pay attention to your first emails. Here's why. Because then the first emails are to introduce the class a little bit and to introduce the professors. And also for any disabled students. Pay attention when you got to renew your accommodations, because that can be very crucial. And also, this is also for disabled students. Please take those renewals very seriously and submit them as early as you can get them. And also, before your first classes, you want to go on the computer, on a laptop. That's the best way you can type accommodation emails is through a laptop. That's the best way of forwarding, best method. You want to use that. Because there's going to be a lot of typing through those. And you want to make sure you type the correct professor emails. Sometimes they send the email and sometimes it's on the syllabus. And you wanna know how you find it. It's gonna be sometimes the professor's first name, period, last name. I think that's old lowercase, at the institution that you're going to. And sometimes it follows by .edu, which is educational. That's the educational email that you do. Pretty much. And you do it as many times as you say. And I would put this in the subject. Accommodations for Hannah or your first and last name. And in the body of the email I would say, hello, my name is such and such. I am a member of your, and I think this is the email I've had to do for everybody. I'm a member of this such and such classes. And below is my accommodations. That means if they respond, that serves as the signature, pretty much. That means they would have to follow the accommodations to the T, too, just as much as the students do. And the tip, also, if you switch teachers at the very last second, you'd have to do the thing that you did the first time. Emailing the teacher. So, I had that happen maybe once or so in my 4 years. Because I didn't make wind ensemble and I had to find another 1 hour class to make sure I'm getting my hours. So I went in and go back a step and go email, actually go back 2 steps. Go to change my schedule a bit and go email that professor with my exact accommodations. Which is, it was a professor I knew, so that was a good start, start the picture. And also for online classes, if you're taking online, go ahead and get that accommodation stuff submitted before your first deadlines, before your first test. Because sometimes the online teachers need time to put the extra time in on your exams. Because sometimes you can't always go back on them. And also same for face-to-face teachers. You would have to submit that early, because that way they'll know what to do. I have this kind of written down in there saying that this such and such student gets a little more time on the test. This such and such student gets free distraction. And the such and such student, all the reasons relating to it. So what this sort of tells your disability center and the professors, and most important, you would know this accommodation yourself, that you know what the rights are in that situation, so that's why you submit early, per se. So I hope we're clear. Okay, so the next tip I share goes for everyone. The everyone meaning you should pay attention to your syllabus. The syllabus has so much more. It has your professor's contact information. If they have office hours that you can meet. But sometimes the music professors say their office hours are filled with possibly teaching lessons during those hours. But sometimes with the music professors, you always have to email what times you might be available and he might be available at the same time. Or sometimes she, to if you get happy or great. And I'm about to get to the point, office hours are the best way for you and your teachers to get to know each other a little better. This is outside class time if you got trouble with a class and you're unhappy with a grade or you're confused by something. Whatever the reason might really be, you can go to their hours. And also the fact, asking questions in class. And this is the reason why they love to see when students are actively listening instead of passively listening. Passive means you're on your cell phone, computer, you're not absorbing as much as you would do active listening. Active listening means your teacher gets the full attention. All eyes on that board, all eyes on him. And you raise your hand to ask questions and sort of engage in the class discussion, which is called actively participating. If you want to know that answer, there you go. And also, this is another tip why, and also this is another classroom manner that you should know. Okay, why I set this thing on focus mode before school starts each semester. So as I tell my dang phone that I am going to be in school, because sometimes I get there 8 o'clock in the morning, sometimes 9, depending on when the earliest class is at the point. I tell my phone when I get on campus, you put yourself on do not disturb. I mean, that's called, if you're an Apple user, it's called focus mode. And you add it for whatever reason you do. So, so I did that with my devices a good bit. That means that I didn't have, I kept the calls under control, text messaging under control, everything under control, pretty much. So I just tell it, say, from this time to this time, I am to be not disturbed. So if you're trying to call me, you know I have to call you during my breaks. Simple as that. Because not just that, if you had your phone go off in the middle of the class, it is extremely rude to the professors. It's extremely rude to your classmates, and nobody's going to want that. Now, take for granted if you're recording something in your class, like a lecture, or you're taking pictures of the slides, they won't fuss at that, because look, it is on, and if you have a disability documented, and you give them paperwork, they're not going to fuss. They never fuss me on that kind of stuff, because knowing I write slow, and sometimes I need that aid right there. As long as you're not scrolling down Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, they won't have a problem. And you're not posting those lectures online, so they shouldn't have too much issues. And also, for the homework issues, you have a set of deadlines you have to complete the modules by. Like, if you have certain, let's say, I had a few classes that, and it's not just a lot of them, you had modules, whether it's online or in face-to-face mode. You had modules. You had deadlines to complete those modules. So I would have done is take a module at a time, a part of it at a time. So let's say you have to read 5 chapters by a certain due date. Sometimes the teacher would have it before an exam, and that's what it is. Or you have to do certain modules before an exam. That is the absolute, you got to be self-disciplined deadline. Because a lot of teachers don't accept late work. Because late work can sometimes be really bad on your grade. That's so I would say as soon as I see the module open, and also if the teacher discusses it in class. But this is the thing I do before class. If I know the teacher's going to talk about this in class, I would go ahead and read the chapter and do the quiz beforehand. That way, whatever I read falls in line with what the teacher's going to talk with. And the more in line you get, the least behind you'll be. So you don't want to be behind to where you don't know anything. So in a way, that's how you deal with the hard classes. You read first. If you have to do a quiz, I would suggest doing it before you enter class. Then go to your discussion. That is a general discussion. You can discuss questions, everything like that. And just continue doing so. Because then again, I had one teacher in particular and how he graded. He graded by points. And there's a few others here and there. But the one I remembered was music history, and how Dr. St. Marie did all of his stuff by the X amount of points you get. So you want an A, you'd have to get within that range of points to get an A. Yeah, and a lot of your classes you'd have to have a C or better to pass the course. Which that is the same as for all your degree stuff, whether you music, nerd, or any other area. C or better in your undergrad will keep you alive. You don't want to have let's say a D, because a D is a no-no. You don't want to say get yourself an academic probation, because then again, if your term or your current falls below it, below 2.0, then that would be like you lose your scholarships for one, you lose your financials being the other. And if you have scholarships per se, each of them have different grade point averages. So you have to keep an eye on what is the requirement for that particular one. But if you get a stipend award, a stipend for band or choir or whatever, I don't believe that has a particular GPA. You just have to be a student. Also, stay away from loans if you can. I understand some people have to go to loans to pay off their education, but try to stay away from them as much as you could. Because not just that you're, I'm saying for a reason, the interests are high on those loans. I don't know how high are they, and thank God I haven't gotten into one, because I don't want to find out how much I had to, or my parents had to repay that loan back. You know. So that's what the truth is, you know. And for if you are taking tests in the labs, guys, is my last piece of advice. Make sure you do, I mentioned it, doing it 3 days early. Means if your professor announces the test, or if the test is on the syllabus, you gotta go 3 days back and submit a form. Like I said, it's gonna be on a Google form. Most cases, most universities do Google. So people can send, and this is what happens. When you send it with the professor's email, Sometimes the professor gets an email too. So let's say the test gets rescheduled. It is up to the student's responsibility to notify staff if a test has been rescheduled, or if you're sick on the day of the test. It's still the student's responsibility. So I hope this all helps, and I'll see you later.